is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Florida.
On the lakefront, absolutely perfect this evening. At Wrigley Field in Chicago, the Marlins and the Cubs, the Fish coming off a stirring walk-off win, just like the Cubs. Marlins beat the Cardinals yesterday at Miami. Cubs beat the Mariners here in Chicago. Yeah, Ichiro's in the house. Marlin fans, Cub fans, a sellout, perfect weather, Wrigleyville, all of that. Hi, everybody. Rich Waltz, along with Preston Wilson. This is certainly a three-game series, and a big one starts tonight in a great setting.
I love this place. The first book report I ever did was on Ernie Banks. Rich, Ernie Banks played on this field. This is awesome. And another thing, that lake, that's not a lake where I come from. That's a sea or an ocean, but that's way too big to be a lake.
What grade did you get on the report?
I got an A.
Very nice. All right, speaking of A's, how about the A-list of talent in this series, and young talent? Preston Wilson's going to take you through and narrate this highlight clip. We're going to see these guys one by one. We start with Giancarlo.
Oh, the home run derby champ. He's back to himself. Look at the numbers in the last 10 games. He is back on a tear, back healthy. Marcell Ozuna, all-star. Look what he's done in the last 5 games. He's been so much fun to watch under Barry Bonds' tutelage. Oh, and this guy could have possibly been an all-star. Look at the on-base percentage. He does everything. Oh, and by the way, a Gold Glove outfield. Anthony Rizzo, 79 RBIs. Are you kidding me? This guy does it all. Great team leader, great first base, and Chris Bryant, Rookie of the Year, has tied his Rookie of the Year total already this year with 26 home runs, tied for 5th in Major League Baseball.
And when they complete the renovations and they get a larger marquee, they can fit all 5 of those names. For now, though, on the marquee, it's Marlins, it's Cubs. It's a very important 3-game series to start the month of August as the Fish and the Cubs go at it. First pitch is right around the corner. Sports Florida is brought to you by the all-new 2017 Chrysler Pacifica. By Southwest, transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. And by your local Toyota dealers, let's go places. Kyle Hendricks on his way out. Boy, look at the white clouds in the background as well. Picture postcard stuff. Miami's lineup brought to you by UHealth Sports Medicine. Preston.
Here they come. D. Gordon is leading off. Martin Prado second. Christian Yelich is third. Giancarlo Ozuna, Real Muto are the middle three. Derek Dietrich, Adani Echeverria, and Adam Connolly round out the lineup.
Kyle Hendricks, who has had a terrific July, and look at what he does in the friendly confines. First pitch. D. Gordon pops it foul and out of play. Look at that, a 1.36 ERA at Wrigley. 7-1 is his record here. Marlins saw him in Miami. Gordon drives that to center field. Dexter Fowler is there, and he makes the catch. Cubs defensively tonight. They played an 11-inning game last night. Southwest Airlines brings it to you. Matt Caesar out in left. Dexter Fowler is off the DL and for about a week. He's in center. Jason Hayward in right. Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant on the corners. Javi Baez terrific defensively. Addison Russell, big hit last night. And Wilson Contreras is behind the plates. Martin Prado digs in. Prado and the Fish with a walk-off win of their own yesterday. A 5-4 win over the Cubs' rivals, the St. Louis Cardinals. See the sun coming through that break in the roof and the bleachers, or the seats, so to speak. 77 degrees at first pitch. Hendricks will sink it. And he misses down low. Earlier in the season, it can be troublesome for first basemen in the first inning or two of a night game here, because that sun is right in their eyes. Pitch is out. Home plate umpires Mark Wagner, Mike Malinsky, Marty Foster, Mike Winters. There's Hayward in right. He's got a little bit of sun to deal with. Prado fouls that one back.
Because you have some daylight between the different tiers of the stadium, as the sun goes down, everybody will get a break from it. But then when it gets down to the bottom level, as the sun's going even further down, guys start to see it again. And that's when the first baseman really has trouble, when the sun is almost at his eye level in the corner there. So that's second, the bottom tier.
Full count, 3-2. Prado, a terrific homestand. Hit .429, 6 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers. Marlins went 5-5 on the homestand. And Prado reaches out and lines it into right center. Hayward covers a lot of ground, and he runs it down. 2 outs, and let's scout Kyle Hendricks, this 26-year-old right-hander out of San Juan Capistrano.
Well, he's a command and control guy. He lights up the strike zone, tops out around 90, but he will throw that changeup in any count. A great 8. Last 8 home games, he's 7-0 with a 1.04 ERA. And really big green, he's got an economics degree from Dartmouth. Like those smart guys, Rich.
Not to be confused with the Great 8, as they call that, those great players from Cincinnati, the Reds' Great 8. The big red machine.
Oh,
Christian Yelich up now, and he takes away the counts 1 ball and 1 strike. Yelich, a really nice homestand, scored 8 runs, hit over 300, and continues a terrific year. He's always been in the top 10 in both batting average and on base percentage, and lately he's been up around 5 in on base, 6 or 7 in batting average. He opens 8th in batting average and 5th in on base, and he fouls it at the plate. Counts 2-2. Giancarlo Stanton is behind Yelich. And the Cubs last night, a dramatic win. John Lester. Joe Madden just, I mean, he pulled players out of his hat And he set a major league record for left fielders used in a game, 6 of them last night. Used 22 players, 7 relievers pitched. It's a ball to Yelich. 2 pitchers pinch hit, and that didn't include Travis Wood, who came in, pitched, played left field, and then came back and pitched again. And that's how the Cubs came back from a 6-0 deficit to win. Yelich went after that low fastball. Baez flips to first, and the Marlins are done in the top of the first. Beautiful night at Wrigley. Cubs coming up, and Adam Conley goes to the mound. Has arrived. They arrived early here tonight. This place was half full, and the Marlins were just finishing batting practice tonight. UHealth brings you the Cubs order.
Well, they were coming to see these guys. Dexter Fowler, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo. Cleanup is Javier Baez. Addison Russell is 5th. Jason Hayward 6th. Wilson Contreras is 7th. Matt Caesar is 8th. And Cal Hendricks is batting 9th.
Adam Conley. And switch hitting Dexter Fowler takes ball 1. Conley had a really nice July. 3-0 with a 1.82 ERA. He works quickly, and he throws a strike.
I really like this kid. He's got the right mentality. He's hungry for knowledge about how to get his job done. He works quickly. And some say he's a mini Chris Sale, so to speak, like a younger version. He's got that same motion, throws across his body. Hitters seem to really have a hard time picking up the ball off Conley.
Fowler, Bryant, Rizzo for the Cubs, and that one misses in from Conley. Dexter Fowler on the disabled list, just came off on the 22nd of July. He was not active when the Cubs were in Miami. And when the Cubs were in Miami, the Marlins played an outstanding series and won 3 of 4. And that kind of has been the story about Don Mattingly's Fish this year. The Marlins have played teams that are above 500 very, very well. Conley comes in with a fastball. And this is one of the things Fowler's very good at. And that is getting deep into counts. 396 on base, 468 slug. (3-2). And it's in. Conley going after the corner. And Fowler is down to first. Leadoff walk. Miami defensively. Brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Yelich, Ozuna, and Stanton. Prado with Derek Dietrich getting the start at first. Echeverria and Gordon up the middle. JT Realmuto behind the plate. And here is Chris Bryant. Bryant with his 26 home runs. But just one post All-Star. And he tried to lift and separate there. Still a 383 on base. Slugging in the mid 500s. 25 doubles. An All-Star for the second time this year. Conley misses out. Preston, what do you see from Adam Conley so far? He did not look a whole lot comfortable out there.
To me, it doesn't look like he's finishing his pitches. He doesn't look like he's really following through with it. But that's an adjustment that can be made. A lot of pitchers make that adjustment. It's a simple word from your catcher or your pitching coach just to make you aware of it, just to make sure you're extending through the catcher, finishing your pitches.
See, only one caught stealing for Conley. And he chases Fowler back. For all the speed that Dexter Fowler has and has had coming up in the Rockies organization, of course in Astros as well, he never really has been an accomplished base stealer.
Base stealing is a knack. It's not really about speed. It's about being able to pick up a key.
There's a strike. Now Bryant shaking his head. Conley was having trouble getting that inside corner in the Fowler at bat. There's his career numbers.
Yeah, there's some guys who have a little better than average speed that are really exceptional base stealers because they know what to look for.
Bryant with a high fly ball, and Yelich makes the catch. So here is Anthony Rizzo, in South Florida zone. Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. His 5th year with the Cubs. And what a great player he has turned into. 3-time All-Star. And a strike, and that's important. We talk about getting a corner against Rizzo. Pitchers try to get that inside corner.
Well, he stands right on top of the plate. He does have that front foot open, but if you look at where that back foot is, it's right on that line.
That's a great place for Conley in the second pitch.
And you can't allow him to scare you out of there. You still have to throw in there. You do have to be better at throwing in there so that you don't hit him. But in order to get Anthony Rizzo out, you have to pitch him inside some. Because if not, he'll just extend on you, and that's when those power numbers go up.
I think scare is a good word to use, because Rizzo, to me, is a scary hitter. He is brave. He does stand on that plate, but you know what? He doesn't complain if he gets hit or winged. You see that left foot. A very, very strong man. Drives it right field in the corner and into the ivy. It disappears. It'll be a double. Stanton had his hands up immediately, and that for now costs the Cubs a run. Fowler's going to go back to third. Rizzo will settle for a double.
Well, here's some of that extension we were talking about. He drives this ball. See where the catcher's set up. See, he's got to reach a little bit back towards the middle of the plate. That's when Rizzo can get those arms extended. He's choked up on the bat so that barrel stays in play, even if the ball is inside. But he gets a good swing on this thing. Fortunately for the Marlins, the ball sticks in the ivy, and Dexter Fowler has to stay at third base.
Here's Javi Baez, and he pops the first pitch up. This is Dietrich, and he makes the catch. That's a big out to get for Conley, as Baez went after the first pitch. He's hitting cleanup tonight. And now all that stands between Conley getting out of this is Addison Russell.
Yeah, that at bat has all the hallmarks of a young player. Javier Barras has all the signs of being a star one day. He's got power, plays a great defense. That's just one of those at bats where you're over anxious. We've all had those at bats. If you play long enough, it's going to happen. But that's a good break for the Marlins.
Now Addison Russell, talented young shortstop. Russell had a big hit last night as it came back down 2 in the 9th against Steve Cishek, Seattle's closer. And Russell and the Cubs got 2 and then won it in extras.
.83 miles an hour pitch. And as a pitcher, that's just what you want him to do with that. I remember facing Maddox, and he'd throw you that little dead fish, and you pull it foul, and he just had this smirk on his face. He's like, yeah, you hit it 400 feet, but that's a 400-foot strike. And now he didn't care.
Ball and a strike. Real Muto with the signs. Fowler's at third. Rizzo's at second. Just underway here on a glorious night at Wrigley Field. Rooftops have folks. I don't see any seats that are empty in the ballpark. In the dirt, Real Muto got a good piece of it.
That's something JT's worked so hard at and has done so much better at. Earlier, he would try to backhand that ball or maybe try to catch it. Working with Brian Snyder, he just gets that glove out of the way and just sucks it up. Not even trying to catch it, just trying to stop it.
Good fastball from Conley. It's 2 balls and 2 strikes. Cubs very good in this environment as well. Best home record in the National League. Joe Maddon's ball club is 34-17. Line drive off of Dietrich's glove and into right field, and the Cubs are going to get 2. There's a look at Dietrich.
Just off the glove, it looks like. When you got that light coming through there, it's a little tough to see. And also, move from second to first, the angle is different with the ball coming off the bat.
Jason Hayward pulls one foul. So the Cubs get 2. And both of the big hits in this inning, the Rizzo double and the Russell 2-run single, came with 2 strikes. You can see Dietrich trying to hide and keep that sun out of his eyes. Hayward swings and misses. It's been a struggle for Jason Hayward. Of course, the big contract, 8 years, $184 million. Last year had a nice year with the Cardinals. But this year, getting started offensively has been a puzzle. Conley misses in. .25 pitches. The split there. The walk to Fowler to open the inning and open the door for the Cubs. That one is by Prado. Yelich gets it. And the Cubs are having good swings against Adam Conley early on.
Some of his pitches are just finding too much in the middle of the plate. We saw the graphic on the Rizzo pitch. It was middle. That ball's up in the zone.
Another 2-strike hit, and that one scorched.
more than anything, that's the key to it, is their 2-strike hits that he's given the batters way too good pitches to hit at in those situations. Got to pitch a little bit more in the corner. Real Muto is showing you that he's gotten better at blocking the ball. Maybe a breaking ball down there with Russell. Got some young hitters that are going to be free swing. Lefty on lefty there with Jason Hayward. Just got to make a little better pitch. He'll be fine.
The energetic Venezuelan catcher Wilson Contreras, and young as well. He's only 24. His first taste of the big leagues. He takes a strike. Just 1 for 14 on the homestand. He was tearing it up in AAA Iowa. When the Cubs called him up finally, he was in the middle of a 20-game hit streak. Russell at second, his line drive single off the glove of Dietrich. Knocked home 2. Hayward followed with a single to left. And now Contreras sitting on a 2-1 pitch.
Even though that pitch was a ball, I like the way he finished that pitch. You could see him a little more bent over, extending through the catcher. Wasn't that stand-up follow through with the recoil.
He lost him. And that's not what Don Mattingly had in mind to open up this 3-game series. The Marlins were in their bullpen a lot this weekend in that 4-game series with the Cardinals especially. Bearclaw, Rodney, and Ramos finished off yesterday's thriller. Matt Caesar now. He has been a pinch hitting demon for the Cubs. See the damage he's done in 69 games. 11 pinch hits. 11. His third most in the majors. Phil Goslin, Matt Joyce have a dozen. Caesar flips it foul and out of play. Bags loaded. Pitch number 34. Real Muto blocks it. I know for Adam Conley, his career is relatively young. He got to the big leagues last year. But 34 pitches is the most he's ever thrown in a first inning.
Yeah, he's going to have to really have some efficient innings, get some quick outs to be able to get anywhere deep in this ball game tonight.
Caesar stays alive. Cape May, New Jersey. That's home for Matt Caesar. And a Villanova Wildcat, both with baseball and football, was an outstanding wide receiver. National title in 2009 in FCS, Football Championship Series. Swing and a miss. And Conley finishes the inning, 36 pitches. And the Cubs lead it 2-0. sponsor of Miami Marlins baseball. Little time-lapse shot on the lake. And here on the north side, the Cubs put 2 on the board against Adam Conley. And the Fish will try to put a dent in Kyle Hendricks, which is not easy these days. Hendricks gave up 3 runs in his last start. Those were the only 3 runs he gave up the entire month of July. Stanton fouls it at the plate. And quickly it's 0-2 for Giancarlo. Hendricks, one of those guys, if you went to one of those high school showcases, he probably wouldn't dazzle you because he doesn't have high velocity, but man, can he pitch. And that is what he does best. Spots an 88-mile-an-hour fastball on the outside part. And down goes Stanton. Place a deposit on 2017 season tickets to guarantee access to the 2017 All-Star Game in Miami. Don't miss your chance to secure seats for a once-in-a-generation event. All-Star Week activities and all of that. Deposits start at just $250, 1-877-MARLINS. Or go to marlins.com for season tickets. Marcell Ozuna, liner to center. And that lands in front of Fowler. And Ozuna is aboard. Ozuna really finished the homestand with a flourish. He had a big Saturday and Sunday in terms of hits. 2 important hits. And remember, on Friday night, homered and doubled.
Well, I'm happy to see him get a hit here because he has bad feelings about this place. This was where he got sent down when he got sent down to the major leagues. They were here in Chicago. And then before that, he didn't get any hits here. So he was telling me today during batting practice, he doesn't really like this place, but it's a good start for him tonight.
JT Realmuto. Solid homestand for Realmuto. 313, 3 doubles, drove in 3. A ball and a strike. Some numbers to think about for Realmuto. Against right-handed pitching, he's second best in the National League. Daniel Murphy is first at 359. Realmuto at 345. Pitch is in. It almost clipped him. And on the road, he is the best in the National League. 368. There's the righty numbers. And there's your road numbers. Of course, you see Martin Prado right behind him on the road. Dietrich on deck. It looks like the scourge of the sun has left for first baseman for the rest of the night. And that guy will be happy, Derek Dietrich. End of the bat, shallow left, and it falls. It falls between Caesar and Russell. I think the swing probably froze Caesar in left. And the Marlins have a couple of hits with 1 out.
As an outfielder, where you see that big full swing and the ball comes your way, it's a different look than when a guy gets jammed. You can see when a guy has to pull his hands in. But then this one, Realmuto's out front, so you see the bat out front. And as a left fielder, he has to freeze just a little bit. See him hold, and now he comes in. And by then, it's just too late to get there. And Addison Russell is really trying to protect himself because that's at the end of his range as well. That's just good placement by JT. I know he's a little upset right there, but it works out for him in a second.
Well, here is Dietrich. When last we saw Dietrich, he had been able to get dressed and was wearing a pie on his face. And that was part of the 3-part post-game celebration he got for the pinch hit game-ending RBI triple.
Almost didn't recognize him with a shirt on, Rich.
Miguel Rojas tore his shirt off in that scrum on the field. Dietrich emerged making like the Incredible Hulk. And then a shower of Gatorade and a pie in the face during the post-game interview. But a much-needed hit. Pulls that one. Rizzo drops it, picks it up, throws. He's called out, but the Marlins certainly will look at it. Dietrich looking into the dugout. We'll take a look as well. It was bang bang, to say the least. Ozuna and Real Muto move up 90 apiece.
Something you don't usually see Rizzo being that casual with a play. That's, oh, I think he might be safe. You know, Rizzo looked a little casual. He's a really good defender, and you don't usually see him be that lackadaisical on a play, but you saw it right there, and I think the Marlins have a beef.
And the Marlins are going to challenge it. So this is a big moment here. It would give Adeiny Echeverria an at-bat with one out and the bags loaded. And of course, Adam Conley is behind Echeverria, and he's not much of an offensive threat. And on a night where it looks like Kyle Hendricks has good stuff, the Marlins have received 2 breaks defensively. Well, 1 for sure, 2 if this call gets reversed. Now, of course, as we looked at the replay, it's back of the glove is when it arrives in the glove for the replay officials.
I think the Marlins are going to be happy with this one, guys.
Yeah, the foot looks, oh boy, it's close. It looks like the foot's down. The ball's back of the glove there.
Yeah, but he's already on the back then. We've been wrong before, Rich. Looks like he just got the foot down.
But is it conclusive? I mean, do you see the foot hit the bag? And that's, they will sync up different angles, and we have just these 2 views. Over on Cubs television, they probably have a couple different views, and the umpires in New York have access to all of the cameras that are televising here tonight. And that may be why it's taking so long, quite honestly.
So in New York, they may be seeing a feed or a angle that we don't necessarily get to see. They have access to all the feeds, and sometimes it takes a little while to get all the angles together to see how things sync up. One angle, they may be able to see the foot hit the bag. On another angle, they may be able to see the ball hit the glove, and that's what they have to merge together to try to figure out the answer to this play.
Well, this is a long one. Call on the field is out at first base, but it has to be conclusive to overturn. Wow. They're going to call him out.
Wow.
Call stands. And you can see Don Mattingly, he's upset. And the Marlins, they have a brand new scoreboard in left field. It is high def. And the Marlins had looks, the same looks that you had. In fact, I think they had some better looks up there. Pitch misses out. And the dugout's not happy, but remember, it's the umpires back in New York, and if they don't have what they feel is conclusive evidence to overturn, they won't.
I think the real thing is that the call was initially called out by first base umpire Mike Michlinski. So it's hard to overturn it unless they have clear evidence. I thought that it was I thought he was safe, but with the naked eye, I thought he was safe. You see the foot there, but it's so the shot is so blurry that it's hard to really get a definitive look.
And
I think that may be the issue.
You know what? I think the Marlins were the victims of technology here.
Yeah.
Because from what we're told, the replays in the Cubs truck were not definitive, and they have two slow-mos, two super slow-mo machines, which both missed the play.
Right.
They were not shooting that play. So they had their super slow-mos on a different look on the field somewhere, a different part of the field. And what you saw at home were the two best replays that were available for New York. Conley now lines one into the seats. And he's behind in the count 0-2. And so that's the importance of that call, because now the Cubs intentionally walk at Chavarria, and Conley, who's just 3 for 37, takes his hacks. This is one of those super slow-mo looks.
Oh, it didn't even have the runner at the base.
Yeah,
wow.
you can't see the runner at the base, not in the frame. So that's one of the super slow-mo looks. And like I said, it feels like the Marlins were just a victim of technology, or lack thereof, maybe. 0-2. Conley, a little dribbler toward short. Russell bare hands, fires to first, and gets him. And Hendricks escapes. And the Marlins leave him loaded. First base. Cubs television had two super slow-mos on the play. One of them was following the runner and did not get the play at first. The other one is this. Rizzo knocks the ball down, and this is super slow-mo, so this is a great look if they had the runner and the ball at the same time. But as you see, as the ball gets to the glove, there's no look at the base. We showed you the two best looks that we had. And Preston, you get a feeling that in New York, Don Mattingly went back down in the dugout, back up towards the clubhouse during that break. And I'm guessing that the umpire said that just maybe because the replays weren't clear, that they were a bit fuzzy. I don't know. Here is Hendricks. And they count 2-0. Now, all of that aside, Adam Conley has to get it rolling here because he can't afford to throw 36 pitches each inning or he won't be here in the fourth. And the word from New York is that the umpires there could not definitively determine if the runner's foot touched the base before the ball was secured in the glove. So definitive is the key. Call stands. And a leadoff walk to Hendricks for Adam Conley. This copyrighted telecast was presented by the Marlins. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of the game, even the super slow-mo, may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Miami Marlins. Here's Fowler now. Well, this is where it all started for Conley when he walked Fowler to open up the first. Cubs would get 2. Conley would throw 36 pitches. Off of Fowler's foot.
Conley's in the badlands of pitching where you have 3 ball counts, and when you get 2 strikes, you end up giving up 2 strike hits.
I like that. The badlands of pitching. That sounds like a good spaghetti western. And Fowler swings and misses. Dexter Fowler is a late bloomer. At 30, he's enjoying an outstanding year. Last year, a career year, scored 102 runs, 4th in the National League, and 17 homers. This year was voted on to the All-Star team. Didn't play in the game. And you see the difference in numbers at this point entering August. Always been a guy that has been coveted as a center fielder. Rockies loved him because he could go gap to gap in big Coors fields. Houston the same. They liked the fact that he could cover ground at Minute Maid.
I remember seeing him as a young kid in the Rockies organization, and you knew he had some tools, and you also knew he had the mentality to want to work for it and get better, and it's good to see him blossom into a better player. It's fun to watch.
Well, this isn't going well right now for Adam Conley. 2 walks, and now the big bats roll in, and that is Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez. Four walks, a pitch count that is 1 shy of 50. By the way, if you're just joining us, Justin Bour has not joined the team yet, and so the Marlins are still heavy in the bullpen with arms. Nefi Ogando is still here. Brian Ellington's still here. A strike. '51st pitch. 37 have been from the stretch. And it's a ball and a strike. Justin Bour's ankle, as Don Mattingly was telling everybody, a little bit tender. And the Marlins want to make sure he's 100% ready to go. He took today off. Will resume tomorrow, maybe play tomorrow for New Orleans. Pitches in from Conley. And it's 2-1 to a dangerous hitter. Bryant is still quite young, just 24. Second overall pick in 2013. Busted bat, and Prado catches it. No, it's on the ground, and a turn over to first. And the Marlins will get 2. Now, the Marlins, hold on here. There's confusion as to whether the ball was caught or trapped. The umpire said trap. I thought it was caught from the get-go. Let's take a look. No, it bounces. The hard part, if you're on the infield, there's an out there. I think the Marlins were reacting, if we watch that one more time, to the call of the second base umpire who was calling safe. But I think he was signifying that the ball hit Prado. As the ball went to second in that last replay, you could see the second base umpire put his hands out, and that's what the dugout was reacting to. They thought maybe he called the runner at second safe, but the runner at second was out.
Yeah, that was just him saying the ball hit the ground.
All right, let's take a look at it. Find the umpire in this picture. There he is, see?
Right. Yeah, that was the signal for the ball hitting the ground.
Yep.
There's a different call for the out at second.
Tell you what, if Conley gets out of this without giving up a run, getting Bryant to hit into a double play, he still has to get Rizzo. He's behind him 2-1. Rizzo blasted one into the ivy his last time up for a double. Only his 30th double of the season. This guy is just a machine. It's tied for second in the National League. And Conley misses in. Rizzo takes his walk.
It's just been a real struggle for Conley tonight, finding a consistent release point. He's battling through it. He's trying to figure out what's going on, how to get the ball in the strike zone or be able to throw it where he wants to. Some nights it's just like that. Some nights pitchers just have trouble finding that strike zone.
He really hasn't had many starts like this all year at all. No sign of that in July. His ERA was under 2 in 5 July starts.
Oh, and it's tough because you're fighting your mechanics. You're mentally, you're young guys, so you're trying to figure out how to get it going. You know mentally that bullpen has done a lot of work. The bullpen threw more innings in that St. Louis series than the starting pitchers did. So you know that's on his mind, and he wants to be out there for his team. It's just been a battle.
Quite honestly, if you throw 58 pitches, and he's going to throw more before this inning is up, you throw 58 pitches and you've only given up 2 runs. You've dodged some things.
Oh, quite, yes.
Here's Baez. Remember, he popped out back in the first.
The frustrating part is when you're going like this as a pitcher, when most of the balls that you throw aren't close enough to even get the batters to swing at, then when you do throw a strike, somehow it finds the middle of the plate.
Baez takes a strike. 23-year-old Puerto Rican. Got some postseason experience. 6 postseason games. Big home run in the division series, game 4 against the Cardinals. And a 3-run homer. Pulls that one wide of third.
He's made some adjustments in his swing. He does have kind of a big take back. That barrel of that bat gets pointed at the pitcher. But to counteract that, now he's pretty much a no-stride guy. That front toe really doesn't come up off the ground, so he's trying to eliminate some motion because pitchers started beating him with fastballs. And now he's made that adjustment to try to shorten that swing a little bit.
1-2. And it's in. You can see where that pitch missed on Fox tracks, and a reminder that the center field camera shooting balls and strikes is not straight on. It's offset towards the third base side. So sometimes when a pitch looks like it's a strike, it might be in. Or if it looks like it's out, it might be on the corner. 3-2. Of course, when they built this place in 1914, they didn't call Harry Coyle up, the famed director, and say, Harry, where would you like the cameras placed here at Wrigley Field? You want a straight center shot? How about low third? You want a high third? 1914.
Yeah, they were worried about getting lights first before they were talking about getting cameras.
Swing and a miss. Adam Conley, my goodness, just a ton of pitches, 64 of them. But it's 2-0 Cubs.
Is due up for the Marlins. It's been 5 days since D rejoined his team. As far as his return, Don Mattingly said that he felt like in his first game back, D was very tentative. Because of that, Mattingly talked to him afterwards. He said, hey, just relax and be yourself. Mattingly feels like he's been fine since then. And the numbers back that up, guys. In that first game against the Cardinals, D was 0 for 4. In the last 3 games against the Cardinals after Mattingly talked to him, D had 4 hits. He scored 4 runs. He drew 3 walks, and he had a stolen base. Hopefully he can get something going for this offense tonight.
All right, thank you, Jess. Hey, Jess.
Yes.
What's it like down there? It's up here. This is simply a glorious night. There's a little tinge of orange in the sky. Temperatures in the mid-70s. What's it like down on the field?
It is incredible down here. I was talking to Mike Hill about that earlier. I said we could not have any better weather, especially considering that it is the beginning of August in Chicago. I'm with you. This is an incredible night here at Wrigley.
Yeah, we've been here when it's been just blazes hot. And this weather is perfect as D. Gordon swings and misses. Kyle Hendricks, and he got him.
Change up. Andrews has a good one, and he pulled a string right there on D to get him out front. I like looking out here and seeing that brand new big super scoreboard with the video screen, but I also love the fact that they kept the old school analog scoreboard out there where they put up the numbers manually.
I think that's even before analog. I think that's just like log. Like Lincoln log.
Analog Lincoln log.
Yeah. I think analog came around in the 50s. That, my friend, is 1914. And that guy's been living in it for the last... But there it is. There's that out-of-town scoreboard out in center field. Prado sneaks one down the first base line. Martin Prado has a hit against Kyle Hendricks. And up comes Christian Yelich. This ballpark is in the middle of a $500 million renovation. The bleachers have been done and redone very nicely, I might add. You see the scoreboard in left. There's a scoreboard in right as well. I love the fact that the scoreboards, there's the one in right, kind of has the green look to it that mimics the manual scoreboards, the out-of-town scores, if you will. Not as obtrusive as you would think. I think everybody very pleased with the way they look. Next on the list, now they've done the bleachers, they've done the scoreboards, they've done the home clubhouse, which apparently is country club-like. They are building a Wrigleyville. The Cubs have purchased a lot of land around the ballpark, trying to transform it into a Fenway Midwest, so to speak. That's next over near the Marlins side. The Marlins and the visitors clubhouse is next on the list.
Sure it is.
That and the press box. The press box and I think some of the suites.
I would say that the visiting clubhouse is going to be the last thing to get fixed in this ballpark.
Right.
And you know what? That's their prerogative. Take care of their players first and take care of the fans.
I will say this. For many players, their first trip into Wrigley, they're in the big leagues. A guy like Christian Yelich, when he was first through here, it didn't matter what the clubhouse looked like. It was still Wrigley. And you walk out on the field and you see the ivy. And as you mentioned, this is where the greats of the game have played in the National League since 1914.
Well, I used to love coming to this ballpark, just seeing that ivy on the wall, even though I hated it when I ran into it. You know, knowing that Billy Williams played here. You know, just all the guys that you remember, Ernie Banks, you remember from the days, you see them and you're like, wow. They played on the same field.
Well, not really the same field. They've actually fixed the field here, too.
Well, that's a good thing.
This guy can really pitch. Kyle Hendricks with a breaking ball on the outside edge, catching Christian Yelich looking.
Yeah, you don't need velocity when you can do this. When you can throw the ball on the edges of the plate consistently like that, you don't need velocity.
As you mentioned, Dartmouth, an econ major. And here's Stanton. And he swings at a 77-mile-an-hour off-speed pitch. It's 0-1. Four strikeouts for Hendricks. One walk, and that was intentional. 3 singles for Miami. And he picks at that corner. This guy to me is a real challenge for Stanton.
Well, most young hitters have a lot of trouble hitting changeups. Why? Because in the minor leagues, the changeup is usually the last pitch they teach. So as a hitter, you don't get to see that many of them, or you definitely don't get to see good ones until you get to the big leagues. So therefore, it's the last pitch you learn to hit.
In Stanton's career, he has 6 plate appearances against him. 2 walks, 0 for 4, 4 strikeouts.
Well, this is a guy that you almost have to just give him an inside part of the plate. And you're, as a right-handed hitter, you're trying to hit the ball in that right center gap over that 368 sign out there, because it's going to help you stay on the fastball. He doesn't throw that hard that he can throw it by you down the middle if you're looking away. But everything else is subtraction. So he doesn't want to make his living pitching inside, so you can't have that in the back of your head just because he throws you 1 pitch in.
Shows him a fastball that's out, and the count goes full at 3-2. That'll start Prado from first. And Stanton fouls it back and out of play. It's a 3-game set tomorrow night, a Tuesday night, 2 night games at Wrigley, and then a day game on Wednesday. Finally an off day. What is that, 20 in a row since the All-Star break? Jose Fernandez, Jason Hamill tomorrow. Then Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Coors Field against the red-hot Rockies. Runner goes. Stanton fouls that one back.
Even though he was late on that, that's the right approach. You saw he had a better swing on the previous pitch, which was changeup, fouled it back. And even though that pitch beat him a little bit, 89 over the middle of the plate, he could have hit that ball well. He's looking in the right spot now, in my opinion.
Eighth pitch of the at-bat. Fastball missed. And you could see Contreras try to frame it. And Stanton on his way to first. And it's out. Pitch number 8.
See, look at every pitch on that at-bat is middle away. He doesn't want to try to pitch inside. He wants to use just the edges of the plate. If he throws inside, it's for effect. So as a hitter, especially a power hitter, you have to put your ego away and say, look, I'm not trying to pull the ball. Look at that chart.
Yeah, and see the 8, and again, the fact that the camera's offset. In the replay, it looks like, hey, that ball's on the corner. But remember, the camera's over on the third base side. If you brought that camera smack dab behind the mound, straight into the plate, you would have a clear look at where that pitch was. That's why they have Fox Tracks, though, Preston.
Yes, it is. To help us compensate for how our eyes lie to us, Rich.
That's true. That's true. Every morning when we look in the mirror, right?
I don't want Fox Tracks in my mirror.
Here's Ozuna. And Contreras throws it into right field. And Prado and Stanton move up 90 apiece. I'm not sure what young Wilson Contreras was trying to do, because Prado wasn't that far off. Now Baez didn't help him, and it's off of Baez's glove, so he's going to end up getting the error.
Yeah, but this is a ball that should have never been thrown by Contreras. There was really no play there. You see Baez try to reach and get the tag. That's a compound error, if you want to call it that. The bad decision to throw it, and then the bad decision for Baez to even try to put a tag on when the base runner's that close. I mean, you don't even necessarily have to see the base runner. You can feel it when he's right there on you. So for Baez to try to make a snap tag on that.
I'm with you on the compound error, though. I mean, Contreras maybe being too ambitious on the throw. Chris Bosio, pitching coach, a quick visit to the mound. Cubs have played very good defense since the All-Star break. That's just their 4th error since the break. Ozuna on a hop. Bryant knocks it down, picks it up, fires across, and just gets Ozuna. And the Marlins come close, but again, come up empty. The Windy City, it's 2-0. All right, Preston Wilson, trade deadline was today. The Mets picked up another corner outfielder. Jay Bruce from the Cincinnati Reds. Jonathan Lucroy goes to Texas, and he can't turn this one down because they're not on his no-trade list. So Lucroy is now a Ranger. And Carlos Beltran, also a Texas Ranger. Steve Pearce goes back to the Orioles from the Rays. Those are just the highlights of a busy day in baseball. Matt Moore also sent to the Giants for 3 players, including Matt Duffy, who is now a Ray. Addison Russell is up. Russell, left center. Ozuna makes the catch. Now, the Marlins were involved in a trade today, and this is it. Remember Colin Ray? He was involved in the trade with the San Diego Padres. An elbow injury forced him to leave Saturday's ball game. Well, the Marlins shipped him back to San Diego, and the Padres, and you get the sense that this was a preemptive strike by the Padres to avoid any suspicion from the commissioner's office. And so the Marlins get Luis Castillo back, who is a highly prized prospect, a guy that the Marlins, it was painful to give him up, and so they get him back, and Ray is now a San Diego Padre. Michael Hill today was asked about the MRI that Ray had and what it showed, and Hill declined to comment because at that point, when the results of the MRI came out, Ray was property of the San Diego Padres again. And so Castillo is back with the Marlins, and Colin Ray is back with the Padres. Who's the big winner today? Who's the guy that will make a difference? Who's the team that made the biggest splash for you?
I believe the Texas Rangers getting Beltran and Jonathan Lucroy. To me, those 2 guys are exactly what those 2 ball clubs need. The Rangers have had injury problems with their catching. Jonathan Lucroy is an all-star catcher. Had the injury on his foot last year from the foul tip, so there was nothing with his throwing shoulder. There's nothing affecting his swing. I think that's a big pickup, and also Carlos Beltran is having a great year.
Liner to right, Stanton charging, and there, a running catch, and Hayward is out number 2. On Monday, the Giants are in town at 7:10. Matt Moore and the Giants, I guess. All you can eat seats, just $25. All military personnel, first responders, and veterans with a valid ID can receive complimentary tickets on South Florida Heroes Mondays. Go to Marlins.com for more.
Moore, is it Matt Moore?
Yes. There you go. Nicely done. That one is smoked off the bat of Wilson Contreras. Into the ivy, and it pops out. Yelich has it. Contreras with a 2-out double.
Well, the Cubs are excited about this young catcher. He's got a really good arm. Got some pop in that bat. Got quick hands. They're hoping he's their catcher for quite some time.
Now the Marlins are going to walk Caesar and pitch to Hendricks. Remember, Conley walked Hendricks when he faced him in the second. Very unintentionally. And here is Adam Conley about to tip 80 on the pitch count. It's a 2-0 game here in the bottom of the third. I mean, look, Conley's pitched himself into trouble, and he's been able to pitch himself out of it to some extent.
I'm looking at my scorecard and all the traffic on the bases, and to say that there's only been 2 runs surrendered, that's quite astonishing when you look at the number of base runners that the Chicago Cubs have had.
Now, obviously, the intentional walk ends up on the pitch count, but even if you want to subtract it, 75 pitches with 2 outs in the third is a heavy load. Hendricks is 3 for 35 with an RBI. The other thing that has to feel a little weird for Conley is that the majority of his pitches have been from the stretch. 81 pitches, 57 from the stretch. Oh, 2. And he got him. And so Conley leaves 2 more, strikes out Hendricks. And this game heads to the 4th. It's still just 2-0. Guests on Marlins baseball stay at the Drake when in Chicago. Stay by the lake at the Drake. It's actually haunted. We've been there before.
Yes.
Buick, big matchup. As the storyline goes, the Marlins have played very well against teams 500 and above, and here's some proof for you. Against first place teams, Miami 13-8, 7-3 on the road. It's second to the New York Yankees. Here is Real Muto, Derek Dietrich, Danny Echeverria against Kyle Hendricks. Fouls it back. There's so much history in this ballpark. There's so many unique things to Wrigley Field. One of those is the way this ballpark is lit. No pun intended with a shot of Harry Carey there. Pitch misses in. The way this ballpark is lit, when they put lights on, they could only put the lights on the roof. There are no lights from left field foul territory to right field foul territory. So that means as an outfielder looking in, Preston, it's dark.
Yes, and if you notice in outfield, the shadows are always behind you. So that lets you know how dark it is behind the players.
How does that affect, say, a Dexter Fowler or a Jason Hayward or a Giancarlo Stanton or a Marcell Ozuna?
See the shadows. Well, it's tough, especially when you got to take your back to the ball. When you're running with your back to the ball and you're going, you don't see it quite as well.
Real Muto, a chopper. Bryant plays it on a big hop and fires across to first base. So that's kind of unique. Certainly with the rooftops and the bleachers out there, they didn't want to put big light towers in the outfield. But you really have to like the way that they kept the bleacher feel and certainly made it nicer for everybody out there in redoing the whole bleacher experience. Dietrich hit that contentious ground ball to Anthony Rizzo, in which it looked like he was safe. He was called out, and the replay stood lined in the gap, right center field. That's a rocket. It's going to get to the wall, and Dietrich is racing, thinking about 3, takes a look, on his way. Dietrich to third, and he is out. Just a perfect relay throw. Hayward, Baez, and Bryant.
Well, those are 2 guys with really strong arms, and Jason Hayward, he may not be swinging the bat like he wants to, but look at that perfect relay throw in Javi Baez with a good strong arm. That ball pretty much tags the runner by itself. Chris Bryant doesn't have a whole lot to do besides that pick right there. That's a really good play. The Marlins hitters do have to make an adjustment. When you leave Marlins Park, that gap in right center is not as deep as it is in Marlins Park, so those throws are going to get there a little bit quicker to third base.
Remember, as Echeverria stands in, the other kick in the stomach from that replay at first is that the Marlins don't have a challenge left. And that, even though it looked on that replay like he was tagged out, on a play like that, the Marlins can't challenge. Umpires can initiate one once you get to the 7th inning. 0-2. Bouncer to shorts. Well, the Marlins have a runner thrown out at third. Still 2-0. Marlins and Cubs from Wrigley tomorrow night. Marlins Live, brought to you by your South Florida Honda dealers. And it's a Jose night. Emails and tweets. Jose takes aim at the Cubs. Jason Hamill, the start for the Cubs. 7:30 start for Marlins Live. A lot of Marlin fans. This is a popular trip to make for those escaping the heat of South Florida.
Oh, they got some great weather, and you come to see in a historic venue. Talked about some of the greats that have played here: Ferguson, Jenkins, Ron Santo, Gary Matthews Sr.
Sarge had a big year here. Fowler, this is going to be a tough out. And it gets by Prado. Fowler to first. I don't think either Echeverria or Prado is going to get Dexter Fowler at first base, because he can run. infield hit. Fowler's been on base all 3 times tonight.
Yeah, this is one of those balls that's just perfectly placed. Prado has to range too far to his glove side. Echeverria has to come in from too far. And Fowler, well, those big long strides get him down the line. Look at that. That's easy running for him.
If you're just happening by, this has been a real rough ride for Adam Conley, even though it's 2-0. Bryant in the air to right. Stanton comes charging in. Adam Conley has thrown 85 pitches already. And he's got 1 out here in the 4th. That's the bad news. The good news, he's only given up the 2 runs.
Rich, this kind of has one of those feels where if the Marlins can get something going 1 inning, this may turn into one of those games that it's a game of missed opportunity for the Cubs. Because they're within striking distance. You get a man on, anything can happen right here. And the Cubs have had a lot of runners left on base so far.
6 walks. 1 of them an intentional walk. And here is Rizzo. A double into the ivy and a walk in the 2nd.
The Cubs have left 7 on base in their first 3 innings.
And Conley hits Rizzo.
Yeah, and that's going to happen. When a guy stands that close to the plate, he's going to get hit. And I think their team has to know that's going to happen when you stand that close to the plate.
And you know what? Much respect to Rizzo, who doesn't act like it's a big affront, doesn't act like, how can you dare pitch inside to me?
Yeah.
He takes it, he takes his base, and goes on about his night.
Yeah, he doesn't give you the Bautista from Toronto where he stands and hangs over the dish, and when he gets hit, it's the end of the world, and he thinks everybody's trying to hit it.
Well, the Cubs lead Major League Baseball in walks, and they lead in hit batters. And so they get on base at a voracious clip. Baez now with 1 out. And Conley misses with a changeup. Popped out, struck out. Were it not for Baez, the damage to Conley would be a little more significant, because both of those outs were key in keeping those innings under control. We'll try to get him here. The count is 1 ball and 1 strike.
Well, that's a good sign for Conley, being able to throw an off-speed pitch when he's behind in the count and throw it for a strike. When you're having a rough night like that, sometimes you need to be able to throw something soft behind. If not, hitters just lay on that fastball.
Justin McGowan in the pen. The 3 principals in the National League East are all in action tonight. The Marlins trailing here 2-0. Mets have a 5-3 lead over the Yankees, top 7, and that is at Citi Field. The pitch inside to Baez. The Nationals are in Arizona later tonight. Desmond Jennings has broken up a no-hitter in St. Pete tonight for Danny Duffy of the Royals. He did it in the 8th inning. Kansas City leads that game 3-0. Big swing by Baez. And the count full, 3-2. Let's see if Joe Madden is in a gambling mood here. He's got speed out at 2nd, and Rizzo is a good base runner. Fowler's at 2nd. So try not to suck. Which, of course, is the great shirt that Madden's been wearing since spring training. That is strike 3 called. That was all over the inside part of the plate. He is the most fearless voice in sports, and he's on FS1. Colin Cowherd every weekday at noon Eastern on FS1. Yeah, Joe Madden had a great t-shirt that he wore at spring training with the trademark Joe Madden glasses and a Cubs cap and the saying, "Try not to suck." And it was so popular that Madden ended up, I believe he licensed it and sold it for charity. It's a great charity that he does in the offseason back in his hometown, Hazleton, Pennsylvania. And when we asked him the night of the fantasy auction if he had one of those shirts we could throw into the Cubs package, he said, "Oh man, I only have the one I've been wearing all year." And then he looked and he said, "You know what? I'll give it to you after the game." The one he'd been wearing for 3 months.
Wow.
And he autographed it. Pitches in, it's 2-1. And that Cubs package did quite well that night of our auction here on Fox Sports Florida. We netted $155,000.
Wow.
With a little help from Joe Madden. High in the air, Addison Russell's popped it up. Echeverria's out. Yelich 2. Etch squares up and makes the catch. And Adam Conley escapes again. 2-0. Sports Florida is brought to you by the all-new 2017 Chrysler Pacifica. By Checkers, fast foodies know the deal. And by Warren Henry, now celebrating our 40th year as Miami's best luxury dealer. Two 2-0 top 5, and the Marlins down only 2-0. Kyle Hendricks has been smooth. He's cruised along, but not Adam Conley. And Conley comes out of the ball game for a pinch hitter. Chris Johnson, pinch a penny, proud to announce that. And quite honestly, in the throes of that first and even early in the second inning, it didn't look like Conley would get to the third, let alone get through 4. And Johnson takes down low. Hendricks, 4 innings, 4 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Conley, 4 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 6 walks, 4 strikeouts, and 97 pitches. And so you're down 2-0. If you're Don Mattingly, now's the time to make that change and let Johnson hit. Johnson reaches out, lines it to left. Caesar! All hail. Great catch. Matt Caesar.
That's a nice play, team charging hard. Johnson gets the barrel on a changeup. Very nice effort. Nice play by Matt Caesar.
D. Gordon now is 0 for 2. You got Prado on deck.
We see D. Gordon squaring around there. One thing that's different this year in Chicago is the grass is cut a lot lower. So the ball on the infield rolls a lot quicker.
And that was the discussion we had briefly about 2 innings ago. The playing surface here has been redone and is much, much improved from back in the day. Gordon up the middle. Snakes it into center field.
Yeah, one of the reasons why they kept the grass so high before is that the infield was so uneven and the outfield was uneven. So they let the grass be high to kind of even it out a little bit. I remember sometimes you'd hit a ground ball on the infield and the ball would almost stop. The grass is so thick. Now the playing surface is a lot faster. They've done a great job fixing this surface, and it plays a lot quicker.
Yeah, state-of-the-art drainage now. They no longer have to crown the field to drain it. Crown is actually, you have to tilt the field so that the rain and the water drains off to the side.
Kind of how they build highways so the water just naturally flows to the edges.
Snap throw from Contreras. Gordon's back in.
Well, we saw the throw earlier from Contreras. Sometimes when you have a really good trait, whether it be speed, whether it be your arm, whatever it is, sometimes you have to learn when to not use it. And I think we saw an example earlier where Contreras probably just should have held on to the ball, but he's got a great arm back there. Likes that quick snap throw. And he likes to show it off.
It always helps to have a guy like Rizzo down at first that catches anything and everything. Big guy with a good glove and a soft pair of hands. Hendricks fires over to first. But you're right, Preston. If the Marlins can scratch out a run here and make it a 2-1 ball game, all of a sudden the Cubs have to start thinking about all those opportunities and all those walks early. Gordon inching away from first. And he's running. Contreras throw out.
Wow. And the Marlins don't have a challenge. So no matter what right here, you can't take a look at it. They don't have a challenge.
Yeah, and Gordon's looking into the dugout like, hey, you should challenge that. And the Marlins can't. Let's take a look. Well, I think he may have gotten him.
They have.
It was bang bang anyways. Here's a look. See if the glove got to the ribs.
Yep. Looks like it may have gotten him.
He's out. That's a good call by Marty Foster, the second base umpire. Prado takes down low. So there's it very easily could be a 2-2 ball game here with the opportunities the Marlins have had slip through their fingers. Little roller. Baez gets the out. D. Gordon thrown out stealing. A little revenge. Miami Marlins baseball. Wrigley Field tonight. Gorgeous night here in Chicago. 2-0 Cubs on top. It's really an odd score for the game that we've watched. The Cubs have had a slew of runners on seemingly every inning. 4 innings of Adam Conley, and now Dustin McGowan takes over. He faces Jason Hayward, Wilson Contreras, and Matt Caesar. Now the Marlins have had some opportunities, and some odd plays have tripped them up. The bang-bang play that was called out at first, that looked safe on replay, that New York would not overturn. The Marlins lost that call at first and lost their challenge. That was on the Derek Dietrich ball. And then Dietrich, in the 4th, blasted one in the gap to right center. Hayward was in right. He picked the ball off the bottom of the wall, just outside the ivy. Threw a strike to Baez, who wheeled and threw a strike to Bryant. And Dietrich was caught trying to stretch it into a triple. Marlins left the bags loaded in the 2nd. That one fouled back. This was the play at first. This would have given the Marlins the bases loaded with 1 out. And this was the out at 3rd. Two and 2. But what the Marlins have missed in their opportunities pales in comparison to what the Cubs have missed. And Hayward gets tied up. I'll tell you what, Dustin McGowan very quietly has been really, really good in Miami's bullpen. I know that he's not one of the headliners, but you look at what he's done in his 2 different stints. His first stint with the Marlins, a 3.38 ERA. That's pretty good. And then he comes back, and his second stint, his ERA 2.75 with a 142 average against. When you're getting that out of one of your swing guys in the bullpen, that gives you depth and length. Ball and a strike to Wilson Contreras. By the way, the Marlins bullpen is heavily populated. 9 relievers right now. That's because Nefi Ogando is still here, and the Marlins heavy because they don't have a number 5 starter. So it's a 4-man bench, 9-man bullpen with just, I guess what, 4 starters currently on the roster. Don Mattingly today was asked if he would consider, or the ball club would consider, moving David Phelps from the pen to the rotation. And Mattingly said yes, that the Marlins would consider that.
Well, it's something he's done before, so he's had experience of being a starter in the major leagues.
McGowan misses and Contreras walks.
Well, the other luxury that the Marlins have right now is they're not carrying a 5th outfielder. So Dietrich, with his ability to play a little outfield, Chris Johnson can get you a start out there, possibly in left. So that allows them to have extra depth in the bullpen as well.
Now Caesar. And a strike. Cubs bullpen is pretty deep and thick right now with their additions. Aroldis Chapman and Mike Montgomery, the latest 2. 4-man bench for Joe Madden, 8-man pen. Of course, for Madden, it helps as that pitch misses low and Real Muto's on his way out. For Madden, it helps that he's got Travis Wood in that bullpen, and he used him last night. And it's a great strategy when in the middle of the game your starter doesn't go very long and you're looking to piece it together. He brought Wood in to face some lefty bats, but then wanted to bring a right-hander in, but he still wanted Wood later in the game. So Wood is a very good athlete. He put Wood in left field to play left field until those left-handed bats came around again. He made a terrific catch falling into the ivy. Caesar lines it into right field. Stanton over to get it, picks it up, and he'll hold Caesar to a single. And the Cubs have something going here in the bottom of the fifth.
Let's get a look at the play right here. Caesar with a nice swing, hits that ball down the right field. G gets to it, comes up throwing. You see, he looks for a second. I think he's trying to see exactly where Dietrich is. And that's one of the things that kind of happen when a guy doesn't play a position that often. Maybe when that ball goes down the line a little bit, Dietrich can come out a little further to give a Giancarlo a look at him. Freeze it right there. See right there, you can't see where Dietrich is because the base runner's right there. Might want to go on the other side to give him a good look at him. You're going to be able to make that throw home if you have to from the backside of that runner. Just one of those things.
Hendricks. See if he bunts. Runner goes, and the Cubs steal second. Dietrich, I think, left early, and Caesar, seeing that, I want to say seized the moment, but got an early start and a huge jump. And now Real Muto has to go out and talk to McGowan. Yeah, he left way too early. Caesar has speed. You just can't do that.
Well, that's a guy that's not used to playing a position much. He's forgetting that his first priority is to hold that runner on, and then you go get the butt. But you can't have a running lead to have a guy get a stolen base like that. That's a lesson learned right there, hopefully.
All right, now the Marlins creep in, infield in. Hendricks, sharp ground ball by Prado into left. 1 run scores. Caesar stops at third. And it's 3-0. Well, they say when the infield comes in, it makes the hitter a little more confident and a better hitter, and it certainly did for a guy that was 3 for 36 before that swing.
Well, any ball with any velocity on it, the ball's going to get by the infielder quicker because the infielder doesn't have an angle to work with. It's really reaction and try to get to it, and when the ball has any type of velocity on it, the fielder can't have an angle to basically cut the ball off. He's just got to try to stab at it, basically.
Fowler takes in. Thus the importance of keeping Caesar at first, keeping that double play in order, and not having the infield all jammed in like that. Fowler to center, not too deep. Ozuna got ahead of steam. Runner tags. Ozuna's throw is a strong one, and he's in there. Marcell Ozuna showing off his arm. We told you Caesar runs well, and he scores. It's 4-0.
Dexter Fowler does just enough to get him a sac fly there. Good throw by Ozuna, but Caesar runs well. Not much you can do there.
Bryant.
Ozuna throws so well from center field. I think one of the things that goes unnoticed is how hard it is to throw from center field. Not only do you have a greater distance to throw from, but you also have to overcome that mound in the middle of the field.
That's why in most outfields, the best throwing arm is in right field.
Right.
And the Marlins have two outfielders that have right field type stuff, for lack of a better word, and that is Stanton and Ozuna. Ozuna, very good right field choice as well.
Yeah, I think Stanton's arm gets unnoticed because they just talk about his power so much. He has such great power, they don't talk about how well he throws from the outfield.
McGowan slider backs up and in to Chris Bryant, who's 0 for 3. The Cubs finally getting some base runners across with 2 here in the 5th. They got 2 in the first. McGowan's first inning in relief of Adam Conley. That one right by Brandon Hyde, first base coach.
Hey, oh, that guy.
Vince Vaughn, a frequenter of Wrigley Fields. Runner goes, soft line drive, and it's D. Gordon who makes the catch. But the Cubs get 2 more. Kyle Hendricks right now throwing a shutout at the Fish.
Stanton drives it left field and deep. That ball's gone. Grand slam. And the Marlins take a 7-3 lead.
Geico presents This Date Marlins History 2011. Giancarlo Stanton as a Florida Marlin. 11th inning grand slam, and the Marlins won that ball game at Citi Field in 11 innings. Second extra inning grand slam in club history. Here it's 4-0. Christian Yelich, third time through. Marlins outfield parades through here. Yelich, Stanton, and Ozuna against Kyle Hendricks. Ball and a strike. Yelich into center field, smacks a base hit. And a leadoff single here in the 6th. The Marlins will try to get something going against Hendricks. Stanton had a deep at bat in the 3rd, walked on a 3-2 pitch. Hendricks has picked at that outside corner with his fastball. And that's the fastball. 87 miles an hour.
Right, but he throws it exactly where he wants to. He keeps it out of the big part of the plate. And you can take a comfortable 0 for 4 home with you because you don't respect this guy and you don't key in on what he's doing just because the velocity doesn't wow you.
Average Major League fastball, I believe, is between 92.5 to 93 miles an hour.
Yes, right around there. I'll give you a great example of how velocity doesn't really mean much. Before the All-Star break, Jared Weaver averages about 83 miles an hour with his fastball. Nate Eovaldi averaged 97 to 98 miles an hour with his fastball. Their wins and losses were almost the same, and their ERA was almost identical. So velocity doesn't mean anything.
Outside corner, 89 miles an hour. Let's check in with Jessica Blaylock. Jess?
Hey, Rich, when it comes to Kyle Hendricks' nickname, they call him the Professor. That's because Hendricks not only played college baseball at Dartmouth, but he also earned an economics degree from the university. He got that nickname from a couple of teammates in the minors when they were talking about where they went to school. He says he's fine with the nickname. He's always thought that academics was just as important as athletics, and he said that the discipline that you have to have as a student athlete actually helped prepare him for his career in the minors.
Baez makes the catch. Well, we're seeing more and more guys from the Ivy League make it to the big leagues, whether as players or presidents of baseball operations for the Miami Marlins. Michael Hill, a Harvard baseball player and football player. Michael Hill was a running back for the Crimson. Hendricks now facing JT Realmuto. Realmuto takes a strike. I told you how Hendricks has pitched so well in this ballpark this year. His ERA here is about 1.25 right now.
Downright stingy, Rich.
In the hole, it's short, fired to first, safe. Realmuto is safe. The signal from the first base umpire, Mike Malinsky, was that Rizzo was off the base. And whether Rizzo came off the base to pick the throw, here's a look. It looked like the ball beat him, but again, Malinsky's signal, I don't know if we captured on this replay. His signal was off the base. And so everybody's reacting to, did the ball beat him or not? This is a super slow-mo from next door. Yeah, but that's, none of this matters because what they're looking for is whether his foot is still touching the base, and that's in the Marlins' favor here now. The original call was safe. It has to definitively show that his foot was on the base. Let's see if you can see the foot here. Again, from that, you can't definitively say that the foot was on the base or off the base.
Yeah, not a very good clear look. It's tough to see. I do see what the umpire saw with the sole of his foot rolling off. But it's just, we just haven't had very good looks at the angles tonight.
Now, again, it's not whether the throw beat him or not. The original call was foot was off the base. Ball's in the back of the glove before the foot gets down. Are we in agreement there?
I mean, I thought I saw it that way earlier, and I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Here we go.
He is out at first. Wow. I'm lost for that, because to me, you've got to have a definitive look that his foot was on the base.
I thought so too, Rich.
Well, both calls at first are baffling. All right, we'll be back. Spin the wheel. 4-0 Cubs. Cubs on top of the Marlins. Now, was his foot on the bag? Does it ever come off? Is it definitively on? The call was safe that the foot was off. As McGowan misses low to Anthony Rizzo. So apparently New York felt from that look that the foot was definitively on the base. And they overturned the call by the first base umpire, Mike Malinsky. Rizzo to right. Stanton is back in the alcove there. Leaps and can't get it. It bounces off the wall and back towards the infield. Rizzo's on his way to third. Stanton airs out a throw, and he's in with a triple.
This is a tough play because of the configuration of this ballpark. The right field corner actually goes deep. It does the same in the left as well. But see, you're not at the fence there, how that notch goes out there. So it's tough if you don't play here a lot to find your way around. That's a really good effort, in my opinion, for Stanton to try to find that. You got to remember that basket also hangs over the field. That's something else an outfielder has to contend with. But I want to look at this throw, how far he threw it from where he threw it. This ball is in the air all the way to third base. I told you how strong his arm is.
Infield in, liner off the bat of Baez. Yelich makes the catch and a sacrifice fly. The Cubs have their 5th run. So a triple by Rizzo. Baez delivers. And here is Russell. Addison Russell swings and misses. Ball and a strike. Well, the Yankees have tied that ball game up in New York, 5-5 in the ninth. Yankees and Mets. High fastball, and down goes Russell. Tomorrow, our friends at Ford will drive. Twitter Tuesday, emails and tweets. Marlins at Cubs, 7:30 for Marlins Live. We'll take your questions, both the emails and on Twitter. On a Jose Fernandez starts.
All right, guys, get out there and flex those Twitter muscles and send us some good stuff. We'll be looking forward to it.
Holy smokes. Oh, this is like the long. We do get a clarification email form from Major League Baseball, and it's a two-parter. The replay official definitively determined the ball contacted the fielder's glove, the interior of the glove, prior to the runner's foot touching the base. Additionally, the fielder's foot was in contact with the bag. Stanton gets a piece, keeps it from getting to the wall, and Hayward's got a double. And according to Major League Baseball, this is the definitive look. The left field super slow-mo. They say that the foot from this look stays on the base and that the ball beat him.
I'm not quite sure how you can. I can understand how you say the ball beat him. I don't understand how you can say, you can definitively say that the foot stayed on the base from that angle. I just don't understand that when you can't see the foot and the base at the same time where the foot is making contact. That's just me, though.
Echeverria makes the catch. That's why there's a no reply note on this email. It's 5-0 Cubs. Out right now for Kyle Hendricks. Quicken rocket arms. Team whip. Whip it good at home. That's a 107 whip. And Hendricks tonight has walked 1. So that actually may go up, right? Because it's walks and hits per innings pitched. He's pitched 6 innings. He's given up 7 hits and 2 walks. Breaking ball and a strike. Derek Dietrich. Dietrich's 1 for 2. Good to see him swing the bat well. He's hit the ball hard a couple times. One was that replay on the bouncer Rizzo's way back in the 2nd. And the other was the ball he scorched in the gap in right center. He was thrown out trying to get to 3rd. So he got a double as a consolation prize.
You could say he's had an eventful night. That's for sure.
You're right. He's been in the middle of it now. And, of course, at first, he was involved in that play where he was charging and Caesar, the runner, at first, simply took off and stole 2nd in a 1st and 3rd spot. Foul back to the screen. I think Dietrich, and he had alluded to this, the end of the last homestand, may have been pressing. And he said he just needed to relax. Don Mattingly said that at the early stages of the slide. He was 0 for 23 before the hit that won the ball game, a pinch hit yesterday. And by the way, that was a rare occurrence in Major League Baseball. A walk-off triple in a tie game. Since 1930, it's only happened twice, and it's happened twice this year. Stephen Drew and Derek Dietrich in the last 2 weeks, actually 8 days apart, and it had not happened since 1930.
That's baseball for you. That's baseball is amazing like that. You can have things not happen forever. It's an amazing thing how this game is and all the variables that come into play.
You could hear a little bit of the crowd stir, and that was for Ichiro, who has emerged on deck. And a base hit into left field for Adeiny Echeverria. And that brings up Ichiro now. And a full house at Wrigley. Two hits away from 3,000. Rizzo holding Echeverria at first. And a breaking ball misses outside. Well, the Marlins have had trouble solving Hendricks. Maybe Ichiro has a little wisdom in that bat.
Ichiro does such a good job of keeping his hands back. I think he'll have a decent at bat against him.
Ichiro lines it. Bryant throws it. Safe at first. Well, you can't hit it much harder. And that's the hard part for Ichiro.
Well, there's just some guys who match up with your style, and I thought this was a good matchup here. And unfortunately, he just hit it right at Chris Bryant.
Cubs, in fact, all the players on the field are looking up at the scoreboard to check out that play at first to see if they want to review it. And Joe Madden says he wants a review.
There's been a lot of calls at first base that have been questionable today.
I think he's out.
Yep.
And I'm not even going to guess on this one.
No, I'm done. Obviously, I don't know what I'm doing.
You can see both umpires looking up at that scoreboard and left. state-of-the-art HD. The perspective is almost like sitting in your living room and having one of those giant HD screens. All the players, all the Cubs players on the field are looking up at it. They're just standing and watching. That seems to be the best look from TV land.
And that's the thing about a line drive. Forever it's been taught when you're on first freeze on a line drive. There are some people that I've run into who I think teach it correctly, and you should go back on a line drive, because if you think freeze, you're going to pause that extra second. You're going to pause anyway if you're thinking back, but you may react a little bit quicker if you're thinking back on a line drive. You're only going to get to the next base anyway on that ball.
I feel like we should have something a lot more entertaining than this. You know what I mean? I mean, like some sort of maybe a 10-run reel flashback.
Might be a good flashback time, you know, at this moment in history or something like that, this date in history.
You know what would make it more entertaining is actually hearing the umpires in New York and watching the umpires in New York as they do it. And when they decide, I mean, let's look at them doing their job. You get to watch umpires live. Why can't you watch the umpires in New York and listen to them say, well, look, I see the glove there, I see the ball there, thus he's out.
I think that would be great. I also think it would be great if the fans could hear an explanation of what the calls are, because sometimes I've spoken to fans where they leave the game and they're, well, what happened on that play? They're asking me, because the fans have no idea why a play was overturned or what the actual ruling was. All they know is that they see safe or out.
Sure.
I mean, you get explanations in football games,
in basketball
when there's a replay,
games,
in basketball games as well. I think
hockey.
Baseball, yes. I think baseball needs to add that as an element.
Look, sometimes there's just, and this is one of those nights where there's been 3 bang bang strange calls at first. There was a game here at Wrigley Field this weekend where there were 3 calls at the plate in the same inning that had a long delay. So I'm all for something more entertaining than this. I mean, it's good to get the call right. He's out. Marlins are 0 for 3 on the challenges tonight. Caesar, the 8-hitter, Kyle Hendricks, and then Dexter Fowler. Caesar fouls it back.
Caesar seems to have a really short, quick stroke.
I'm sorry. I was baffled with the sausage party appearance there. That was one of those where you really don't want to comment on it. Here's the 0-2.
I tried, Rich. I tried to talk about the swing of Caesar. I tried to get us out of that, but you're right.
See, now what we could do in the course of a long replay review is show a sausage party preview, right?
That works.
I mean, why not give folks a taste of what's coming in theaters in a week, August 12th. See, there it is again. It just ran by. See, now there he is again. See, now that's entertaining. Wouldn't that be more fun than staring at the umpires and staring at the two managers? Let's not have a sausage party. That one in the dirt, and it bounces off of Real Muto. 2 balls, 2 strikes. All Cubs tonight. Kyle Hendricks. Has been pitching well, Mr. Hendricks has. He's on deck, by the way. His pitch count at 96.
Well, Hendricks does such a good job all night of staying out of the middle of the strike zone. Every time we see fox tracks, especially to Stanton, the ball has been all around the strike zone. Nothing really in the meter of the strike zone for him to swing at.
Ogando with a fastball up and in. And it's 3-2. No swing. There's Hendricks.
Oh, that's a nasty sink right there. That ball's down 95 and it's moving. That's filthy.
There's no question that Ogando has a live arm.
That thing's got change-up action at 95 miles an hour. Look at the tilt on that thing. Almost like a backward slider.
Ogando was in the Phillies organization last year. Both bullpens had busy weekends. Obviously, the Cubs pen last night had a busy night, both on the mound, at the plate, and in the field. Six left fielders used last night by Joe Madden. A new major league record. Hendricks going after that heavy sink. 1-2. 40,937. One disappointment tonight is that we haven't run into our good friend John Baker, who is now in the front office of the Cubs. To right, Stanton is there, and a waist-high catch. Two outs. And Dexter Fowler is coming up. Not a full schedule, as we mentioned in baseball, but the particulars in the East race all in action. Marlins on the bottom end of a 5-0 Cubs lead here. Mets 5-5 with the Yankees, bottom 9, and that's at Citi Field, so the Mets are the home team. And the Nationals have jumped all over Arizona by a score of 6-1, top of the second. Remember how Arizona won the offseason in terms of trades and signings?
Yeah, that's what everybody thought.
They're 43-62 right now. Bouncer in the dirt. I think the same thing happened to the San Diego Padres a couple years ago, and frankly the Marlins, remember 2012.
That's one thing to do it in off season, but when it's a different thing seeing how that team fits together on the field.
Which I think is what makes this year so exciting for the Marlins, especially in that clubhouse, to finally have a team that has the opportunity to win and is doing it right now. 9 games over. Little tapper. Ogando gathers it and gets the outs. And if Ogando scoreless 7th, we're going to the 8th. 5-0 Cubs. Kyle Hendricks has been outstanding for the Cubs. D. Gordon leads it off. And Gordon sends it to left, hits it pretty well. Caesar, shy of the track, makes the catch. So an out here in the 8th. It's a Jose night tomorrow night. Jose Fernandez, Jason Hamill. 2 very good right-handers. Obviously, Jose more of a strikeout pitcher, but Hamill's ERA in the low 3s. And he is 10-5. 7:30 for Marlins Live. South Florida Honda dealers get you started with that. And we have emails and tweets on email and Twitter Tuesday. Prado tonight is 1 for 3. There's not a lot of damage up and down the Marlins lineup. You see left fielder Travis Wood and Pedro Strop warming up in the bullpen. Just 7 hits for Miami. No Marlin has more than 1 hit. Gordon has 1, Prado 1, Yelich 1, Ozuna, Real Muto, Dietrich, and Echeverria. And Prado steps out.
There's guys like this, like in Hendricks, where you just need to take a look at him if you're a young pitcher. Just understand, location means a lot.
Is he the closest thing to Greg Maddux that you've seen this year?
Possibly. I mean, with the velocity, doesn't really throw many breaking balls at it. I would say that's pretty much the pattern of Maddux.
Fowler's there and he makes the catch. Digital Flex Pass. You get 20 digital tickets for just $199. It's just $10 a game, and you pick the games you want to attend. It's the perfect way to follow the Fish into August and into September on their quest for October. Yelich 1 for 3. Hendricks was an 8th round pick, so some scout liked him despite not throwing in the mid to upper 90s. 8th round by Texas, 2011. Came to the Cubs in the Ryan Dempster trade. So all the trades that you saw in the last few days, there are some names that you have never heard of that went in the other direction from some big names. In about 2 or 3 years, keep your ears and eyes open for those guys. Two balls, 2 strikes.
Well, the Marlins also saw Mike Leake for St. Louis a few games ago. He doesn't necessarily light up the radar gun either, but he's one of those guys that knows how to pitch, uses movement, changes speeds.
Yelich. Baez. Kyle Hendricks goes 1-2-3 through the 8th, and a huge ovation, well deserved.
5-0 in the 8th inning. Talk about two teams that were well represented in this year's All-Star game. That would be the Cubs and the Marlins. Take a look at the number of All-Stars between the two ball clubs. A total of 9 players for the Marlins. They had guys that included Jose Fernandez. He will get the start tomorrow for the Cubs. Guys like Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant, who are both due up this inning. So, guys, a lot of talent on this field tonight, and maybe a couple of future All-Stars out here as well.
All right, thank you, Jess. That's a nice play by Derek Dietrich to get Chris Bryant. Ogando got over there quickly. Dietrich was playing way off the line. Made a nice sprawling stop. You see Miguel Rojas in your shot. Rojas is in at third base as he takes over for Martin Prado.
He knows how to get him a little camera time, you know. Go talk to the pitcher. Got to mention it. That's how it is.
Well, the night started with a struggle from Adam Conley. And the Cubs jumped him right out of the chute for 2 runs. And ended up leaving the bases loaded. Cubs threatened in the second, didn't score. Threatened in the third, didn't score. Threatened in the fourth, didn't score. And then broke through in the fifth with 2 more runs. And that was it for Conley. Actually, it was it for Conley after 4. A rare off night for Adam. 4 innings, 5 hits. And just 2 runs. Dustin McGowan would end up going 2 innings, 4 hits. McGowan charged with 3 runs. Conley walked 6, struck out 4. And this is Nefi Ogando's 2nd inning in relief. Anthony Rizzo's had some sweet swings tonight. He's a homer away from the cycle here. He doubled in the first, walked in the second, hit by a pitch in the fourth, tripled in the 6th, and now singles here.
That's a nice little stroke there. Short swing from a big guy. Average was down early in the year, but he's turned that around. Power's been there all season, but lately he's gotten that average up.
Now Baez. Well, the Cubs last year took a big step forward. They won 97 games. 2nd in the National League wild card. They won the wild card game in Pittsburgh. Jake Arrieta saw to that. Busted bat. And the ball goes on one side. The bat ends up on the other. Jeez. Don't grab that too tightly.
Remember, I said he's got that wrap with that bat head points at the pitcher. If he doesn't get it down right with that long way to go, those guys who throw hard, and Ogando throws hard, 95, 96, that's where they were trying to do to him, beat him in up around the hands.
Ball in the dirt. And it's worth noting, a night after Joe Madden used everybody but Ronnie Woo-Woo in relief, the bullpen is quiet, and he may get a complete game out of Hendricks here, which is, for him, would be a godsend after last night's extra inning affair against Seattle.
That's an amazing thing to get a guy who gives you at least 8 innings after a game like that last night. Guarantee you Don Mattingly appreciates that.
I think Ronnie Wu actually worked a scoreless inning against the Mariners. While Travis Wood was in left field. Addison Russell now. 2-run single back in the first. That Mets and Yankees game is now top 10. And the Yankees have the bags loaded in the top of the 10th and nobody out. So the Marlins are hoping for a little help from the Pinstripers. Cardinals are not playing tonight. The Marlins have a leg up on the Cardinals in the wild card in that number 2 spot. 2 behind the Dodgers, who have the first wild card spot. Nationals still on top of Arizona 6-1. I love the way Anthony Rizzo in this ball game here, 5-0. Watch Rizzo. This is a veteran move. He doesn't want to draw a throw over and risk getting injured or hurt. He knows he's going to take a secondary lead anyways. So he starts, and this is like, you know, back when he was in Parkland Little League. Now he takes a little bit of a lead. Smoke to left. Yelich. Oh! Just got it. Tell you what, that was really hammered. And Yelich used every inch of that glove. Brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. By the all-new 2017 Chrysler Pacifica. And by your South Florida Honda dealers. In Chicago, 5-0. The Marlins have been dazzled by Kyle Hendricks. And here is Hendricks pitching into the 9th. Trying to put the finishing touches on a shutout. Marlins have had 2 pitchers throw shutouts. And neither guy throws all that hard. Jeff Locke and Adam Wainwright. And so here is Hendricks. Stanton goes after a fastball at 87. The pitch range, 91 miles an hour is where he's topped out. Stanton goes right side to Hayward, who makes a catch. Toyota brings you an inside look. Cubs standings by month. Even though the record in July was 12-14, that's somewhat deceiving because they've played well after the All-Star break. Post-All-Star break, the Cubs at 10-6. So they can go to 11-6 post-All-Star break. And if they hold this lead, and 41,000 here in appreciation of what they see from Kyle Hendricks. Ozuna takes off the plate. It's 1-1.
Hendricks is scattering 7 hits, not really letting the Marlins put anything together. Done a great job of pitching, and I mean that in the literal sense, pitching.
Pitch number 117. Ozuna walks.
He is a nibbler. He's a nibbler, isn't he? But he's a nibbler with control and command. So it's okay.
Cubs bullpen is ready if needed here. There's Real Muto. Chris Bosio. Real Muto 1 for 3. Ozuna at first. We got Dietrich on deck.
I'm really impressed with Real Muto tonight. Not just the way he's swinging the bat, but his defense behind the plate. We didn't always talk about everyone, but he blocked some balls very well, kept him in front. He's gotten so much better getting that body angle, leaning forward, smothering the ball in front of him. Just a lot of hard work put in. And I just had to say it. Really bad, but had to say it.
1-2. Yankees did get a run, and it's 6-5 Yankees over the Mets, bottom 10 at Citi Field. At what point, if you're Joe Madden, I mean, how long do you go here? He's passed his career high in pitch count.
Yeah, but I think you look at it like, has he had any stressful innings? And I would honestly have to say maybe one inning was kind of stressful.
That third inning.
Yeah, other than that, he pretty much breezed through. May have given up a few hits, but not really much stressful inning. Wow, I don't know how you lay off that pitch. That was a good pitch.
I think if he loses Real Muto, if Real Muto gets on, I think that's it for him.
Yeah, I do.
I don't think Joe Maddon's going to let him get over 130 pitches.
What I really think right here is he should just throw a fastball and say, here, try to throw it on the outside corner and say, here you go, hit it. That's what a guy does. He's got a 5-run lead. They can't tie up the game with one swing right here. You can keep your bullpen from getting into action with a here you go, hit it fastball right here.
That may finish it. Baez turn. And a 7-hit shutout for the 26-year-old out of San Juan Capistrano.
Marlins had their hands full tonight.
5-0. Cubs get game 1 of this 3-game set. We'll wrap it up when we return to Chicago.